Completing the square when b is odd. Yesterday you learned how to complete the square when b is even. Completing the square if b is odd is the same, you're using the same steps. First you want to isolate y, and y is by itself over here, so we're good. Then you want to slide c over just like you did before. Now remember, here is c and this is b, so b and c. And for this one, a is 1. So we want to start by sliding c over, so we say x squared plus 3x, and we're going to put our minus 5 over here. We're going to put parentheses around this. Now we want to take half of b and square it. Now that our b is odd, we're going to have to deal with fractions. So half of 3 is really 3 halves. We're going to square that. Remember, that means you square the numerator and denominator. 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4. So half of b squared is 9/4. Now we're going to add the result to the inside and subtract the result from the outside. Remember, inside you put your plus so that this makes a perfect trinomial. But when we add 9/4 to this side, we also have to subtract 9/4 from that side. So minus 9/4. This way, we've added and subtracted from the same side, so the equation is still equal. Now we want to factor what's in our parentheses. It's a perfect trinomial. X, the square root of x squared is x. This sign is a plus, so plus the square root of 9/4. That's whatever was in here. That's what you squared. So we squared 3 halves, so this is 3 halves squared minus, and now we need to subtract our fractions here. We're going to get a common denominator. This is 5. It was 5, so that's 20/4. So we're going to subtract 20/4. You see that the steps are exactly the same. We just now have more fractions to deal with. Our vertex is still the opposite of this one, negative 3 halves, comma, the same as this one, negative 20/4. And we leave it, I'm sorry, that's not 20/4. I forgot to subtract, didn't I? Okay. Back to here. 20/4 minus 9/4 is 11/4. Change this to 11/4. If it simplifies, you would go ahead and simplify it, but we're not going to change it from this form. We're going to leave them as fractions. All right, we have the same thing. Y is isolated, so we're going to slide over our negative 4. X squared plus 5x, and we're going to move that minus 4 over here. Now we want to take half of 5 and square it. So half of 5 is 5 halves. Now we're going to square it, and that's 25/4. We're going to add 25/4 in here. Remember, the inside one always needs to be addition so that it makes a perfect trinomial. We add it inside, we subtract it outside. Now we can factor our perfect trinomial. That's going to be x. It's plus because this one's plus. What did we square to get 25/4? We squared 5 halves. So x plus 5 halves squared equals y minus, now we need to subtract these. 4 is 16/4. So negative 16/4 minus 25/4 is going to be negative 41/4. I'm going to leave it just like that. We can, now that it's in vertex form, we can write our vertex, the opposite of what's inside, so negative 5 halves, comma, exactly what's outside, minus 41/4. When we're looking at it in standard form like it is up here, we have no idea where our vertex is or anything like that. Once we get it in vertex form, we know the vertex, we know how it's been shifted, and we can graph it from there. It makes it much easier than just trying to plug points into here and figure out what the graph is. Alright, the first two both had a is 1. This one had a is 2. That is going to make a difference just like it did when b was even. We're going to start out with the same steps. we have 2x minus 9x, oops, 2x squared, and we're going to move the plus 9 over. Now I need to factor out that 2. So I take 2 out of both of the things that are inside. So y equals, if we factor out a 2, 2x divided by 2 is x squared, or 2x squared. 9 divided by 2 is going to be 9 halves x. We didn't factor it out of the 9, so that stays plus 9. Now inside we not only have something that's not even, we have a fraction. How do we take half of a fraction? We multiply it by a half. So we're going to do 9 halves times a half. We don't want to put 9 halves over 2. That's confusing. So 9 halves times a half is 9 fourths. And now we square it, which gives us 81/16. Take this a step at a time and be sure you write this work out to the side. Don't try and do all of that in your head. It's worth writing it down and getting it right. So we're going to add 81/16 on the inside. Since we added it inside, we're going to subtract it on the outside, 81/16. Okay. Now we can factor it. So our 2 stays outside. Here's our perfect trinomial in the middle, x. Since this is minus, we're going to have minus. What did we square to get 81/16? We squared 9 fourths, so x minus 9 fourths. Now we need to combine, this. We have 9 over 1, so we need to multiply both of those by 16. So 16 times 9 is 144, so 144/16 minus 81/16. So 144 minus 81 is 63/16. So plus 63/16. This is going to take a little bit more time because you can't do all this work in your head, but that's fine. Just use your scratch paper. Forgot to include my squared there. Now that it's in vertex form, we can write the vertex, the opposite of what's inside, so a positive 9 fourths, and the same as what's outside, 63/16. And that would be our vertex. Here are a few problems for you to try on your own, and we will check these in class tomorrow.